Hello, so welcome to Golf FM, welcome to a windy practice ground at the East Links at North Berwick, where we're going to have a look at the differences between setting up for a driver and setting up for an iron. Now, when I started playing golf a long time ago, driver heads were small and iron heads were pretty much the same as they are now, maybe a little bit smaller. But there wasn't a massive difference between how you used to try and set up for a driver as against an iron. But with the advent of big-headed clubs and the higher teeing up that goes on around that, there's definitely a difference between how you set up for an iron and how you set up for a driver these days. So I just wanted to go through that in case you weren't aware of that, because it does make a bit of a difference. So the main thing that is different here is kind of spine angle, to be honest. So the setup for an iron is the spine just running straight up and down in a straight line from the ground, perpendicular to the ground. So it's just straight up and down, and it's as simple as that. Driver swing, you don't set up so much with your spine just straight up and down, you actually tilt it away from the target. So you try and get it just on a slight angle. So just in case somehow that isn't blatantly obvious, the blue line would be for an iron, that's your sort of back spine angle. And for a driver, you might be just a little bit more that way. So you're tilting your spine that way for a driver, and then you're just straight up and down for an iron. So the driver's on a high tee, and you almost want to be catching it on the upswing. So as the club got to the lowest point, round about your left heel, in line with your left heel, it's then on the way up. And to get the maximum amount of distance out of a driver, you kind of want a sort of high launch with not a lot of backspin. You kind of want to throw it up into the air with a rainbow flight, like you would hold a hose out in front of you. You want this to go as far as it could. You would hold it at a certain angle. It's quite high. You wouldn't hold it down like this. It would just fall down. So you kind of want that optimum launch angle. And to get that, you kind of need to hit slightly up. And to help that, and in readiness for that, you just tilt your spine away, and that helps your body just to slightly hit on the up as you come through. And the opposite is true for irons, that a good iron shot is a punch down, it's a downward strike. So when you're really striking an iron well, you'll end up with seeing a top player like this at the end of a swing for an iron. So it's there, and then all the way it's down into the left foot, you're hitting down. There's not a look of hitting up now. So we're actually punching down into the back of the ball, taking a divot after it, and then turning through into the through swing. Sorry, I nearly broke my knee off there because I'd jumped off a fence a few years ago and knackered my knee and nearly broke it off there. It's all right, I'm okay. Don't panic, I'm fine. So that is basically it. So it doesn't look a lot different when you see it from this angle. So an iron swing, you wouldn't really see that your spine's straight up and down. Equally, driver, it's a slightly different look, but you can't tell I'm doing that. You can't tell I'm tipped away from the target. That's for a standard driver shot. You might change that slightly if you're trying to drive one low into the wind. You might not hit up on it so much and lean back. You might bring your spine in more into an iron kind of setup. But that's basically it. It's not massively complicated. It was never going to be a long video, this. It was just in case anybody's out there thinking, well, surely just do the same thing for every swing. Well, actually, there's slight variances in how you have your spine angle. The only other thing that you probably would add into that is possibly width of stance. So for an 8 iron, I might just be shoulder width apart, but for a driver, because it's a bigger club and there's more speed and there's more movement, there's more forces involved, I would just be slightly wider, just a fraction wider. And maybe the only other thing you would add in on top of that is the hand position. So the hand position for an iron would be, well, basically the hand position doesn't really change that much. It's always opposite the inside of the left thigh, ideally. So the ball position changes for an iron. For an 8 iron, it might be quite close to the middle, but the hand position's off the inside of the left thigh. And that promotes this downward attacking angle that we want for irons, punching into the ball. So we set up with that look, with a little bit of forward lean. And the only difference with the driver and why that looks different is because I've still got my hands off the inside of my left thigh, but the ball position's forward for a driver because I want to catch it on the upswing. I don't have the driver so far back, so I don't have a look of forward press on my driver. I have a look of the hands just being the shaft just being straight up and down, not back or anything like that, or not, but it's definitely not forward, it's just neutral position there, straight up and down. But again, it's because of where the hands are. The hands shouldn't really change much, unless you're doing different stuff, you're hitting high, low, then it becomes a little bit extreme one way or the other. But basically, that's your setup stuff, iron versus wood. Now, if you take it from the ground up, you've got wider stance for a driver, you've got a tipped spine angle back away from the target, and the hand position and shaft position, there's no shaft lean, but that's because of the hand and the ball position. So it's really just the stance and then the tipping back, and then the iron, you're just straight up and down with your spine, and your ball position dictates that your hands look a little bit forward because the ball goes back for an iron. So I hope that was helpful. It does help a little bit as the wind picking up. Just again, my head cover's about to go in the sea, so I better see you next time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.